It's a good ball played in for Tony Morley. Oh, he missed it! It is! Peekaboo! Villa in the lead!
Good evening, Aston Villa fans, and welcome to the Villa Forever podcast. I am your host, Chad Williams. Please make sure to subscribe, and you can follow me on Spotify, on Apple Music, and Amazon Music. Let's spread awareness of Duchenne muscular dystrophy. This evening, I am joined by my special guest, John Townley, who is a writer and Aston Villa correspondent for Birmingham Live, originally the Birmingham Mail. Also, he is a co-host on Dan Rollinson's Claret and Blue Podcast. John, over the years, has produced some great articles and interviews for Aston Villa over the last few years. And I think John is an important voice for all the Villa fans. And I'm a massive fan of John's work. Pleasure to have on the show. John, how are you?
I'm great, mate. That's probably the nicest intro I've ever had. Even better than my own podcast. Yeah, I really appreciate your words, firstly. And it's a real pleasure to be on your channel. I said before we started live that I've watched a few of your interviews with other guests that are much more special than me. So, yeah, really looking forward to getting stuck into some of your questions on the show.
Yeah, it's nice to add you to the list of the big guests that I've had. And obviously, you're one a minute.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say again. You've done some really good interviews, so hopefully I can kind of fit the billing, because it is some really good content that you've produced, Chad, over the last 2 years. You said now that you've been doing your podcast.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, we'll make sure to hopefully push it out even further. 2 years it feels like a long time, but in the world of Aston Villa, it goes very quickly. I've been doing my job for 2 years, and it seems to have flown by. So yeah.
Well, before we get into the interview, I want to quickly talk about the Club Brugge game.
Yes.
Yeah, that was an absolutely vital result, that was. Next week, we go into Villa Park with a 2-goal advantage.
Yeah, and that's, I think, going to be really key. I said before the game that I think the first leg, although it's only the first one, and Villa play at home in the second leg as well, obviously, which is a big advantage, I think it was really important that actually we didn't basically lose the game. I think avoiding defeat would have been a bonus. To win and win by 2 goals, it's like 3 more bonuses. So, yeah, really important result. I don't think the performance was particularly brilliant, but I don't think it needs to be. And it proved that it didn't need to be, because we won 3-1. But Unai Emery obviously knows these knockout competitions better than anyone else. He has huge success in it, as you know, Chad. And the players on the night, could have gone either way, but we come out with a 3-1 lead. Even kind of small margins go for us, and the penalty with Asensio, I don't think anyone doubted that he would score. And those are again, kind of the small margins where you win a penalty, Cash playing well when he came on, and then Asensio taking the penalty, putting it away without any problems. And then all of a sudden you've got a 2-goal lead. And if it was a 1-goal lead, I do think the complexion would be completely different. So a 2-goal cushion is enough for me to feel very confident we'll go through. However, I do also think that it is still open if Villa do concede first, and at any point in the match.
Complacent.
Precisely. And I think if Villa do concede first, even if it's in the 80th minute, and the game is, or the tie even, is basically on a knife edge, because although Bruges can win 3-1 or 4-1 or whatever, it sounds like a big scoreline, but if the game goes to extra time, that's just a completely different situation. So Villa, as you say there, Chad, spot on. Villa can't be complacent, and I don't think there will be. I don't think they'll be allowed to be with Emery in charge.
What it is as well in that game, we kept fighting. And you look back to the Bruges mistakes. We capitalised on their mistakes.
Yeah.
And I sense, on the score sheet again, can't stop scoring.
Yeah, and this is why you bring a player of his quality. Like, he comes with a lot of pedigree, but John McGinn said in the pre-match press conference beforehand that him and Marcus Rashford, Asensio and Rashford, they didn't come with any sort of baggage. There's no egos there. They've settled right into the team, and I think they're aware that they need to fight for their place, which obviously increases the level in the starting 11 and in the squad. Better competition for places. And how many goals he scored? Is it 5 goals in 4 games? It's, yeah, a really strong start for him. Hopefully he can continue that. He hasn't scored too many goals away from home in the league for PSG or Villa. I think his last goal was back in December, but yeah, hopefully that changes against Brentford.
And I think as well, Tyrone Mings, he was an absolute rock at the back. I think it's what had been missing in the heart of the defence. I loved it as well. He had a goal-saving clearance.
Yeah, and at the time, where I'm sat, I had no idea that he'd flicked it over the post or behind the post even. It wasn't only until I saw a replay on social media quickly, because a few people had mentioned something that Mings may have got a touch on it, and I thought, well, if he's got a touch on it, maybe it's I don't know, a fluke, or he's standing in the way of it. But I've seen a lot of people sort of say, "Oh, did he mean it?" But I'm not too sure what that means, because he definitely meant to clear the ball, and I don't think it matters how he's done it or how much of a touch he got on it or whatever it may be. The ball didn't go in the net, and it was thanks to Mings. So yeah, it was really nice for him, especially to essentially redeem the mistake that he made back in November by obviously assisting the goal and going one better to literally saving a goal. And again, at that, yeah. And at that point in the game where he cleared the ball off the line, if Villa had conceded there, then there's a decent chance that they then play at Villa Park with a 1-goal deficit instead of a 2-goal advantage, and that is I wouldn't say that's a mountain to climb, but it's certainly more of that than a nice lead to have going into that second leg. So yeah, Mings, fantastic on the night, and I do think sometimes he gets some unfair stick. I think a lot of people forget that he's been out for.
They need to get off his back.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, and because of the injuries he suffered as well, I didn't expect him to be at this level, to be honest. You can say, is he better or worse than before he got his injury? That's kind of by the by, though. To have that injury and the extent to which he had it as well, it wasn't just an ACL, it was more complex than that. And to come back fighting like he has and putting in the performances that he is doing in the Champions League as well, of course, he's not just playing Premier League football, he's been asked to play different competitions, different partnerships too. So yeah, I've been incredibly impressed by Mings. Again, not saying that he's any better than he was before, but in terms of the kind of setback he had in his injury, I think that speaks a lot of the kind of character that he is.
In general, for Aston Villa fans, it's been a very happy time. When you think now, we've got a chance to be in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. We're 90 minutes away for a Wembley return. Things are looking really on the up at the moment.
Yeah, and this is why it's difficult sometimes to look just at the league form and say that, we've missed so many opportunities for top 4 and top 5, but you have to look at the rest of the season as well. I think if we weren't in the Champions League and if we weren't in the quarterfinal of the FA Cup, we'd probably be in 4th by about 6 points or something, because our performance levels would just be better. The injuries wouldn't be as severe. And we saw that last season, how playing albeit we were playing on Thursday, but in a lesser competition, we were able to step it up in the league. That hasn't happened this season, but to be so close to those positions anyway is still, it's not a bad thing at all. And I said at the start of the season, and I'm sure you probably agree, Chad, if Villa could just be around the European positions at this point in the season and to just get European football next season and, give the Champions League a good go, that would be a good campaign.
And as well, a chance for a trophy.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only thing that should matter, really, shouldn't it? A lot has been said about the money in football, and we all know why, because you might have to sell players, and it's important to increase revenue. We all know that. But ultimately, the reason why you fall in love with the game is, well, for many reasons, but one of them is it's to see your team win a trophy, and we haven't won specifically the FA Cup for a very long time. So if we can do that this season, it would be. Whatever else happens. If you win a trophy and win the FA Cup, fantastic. I wouldn't mind if we lost every other game in the league, if that was the case. But you can't guarantee winning the FA Cup, can you? So,
well, let's get into the questions then.
Yep.
So let's talk about the Birmingham Mail. So how did it all start for you? And how did you get your job at the Birmingham Mail?
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to do this. Well, specifically this job actually, but it kind of filtered down into this. But I knew I wanted to work in the kind of sports media industry from quite a young age, probably when I was about 14 or 15. And I went to university to do a sports journalism course at the University of Gloucestershire. I did that for 3 years, finished there in 2021. And Matt Kendrick gave me a bit of a break, or gave me a break, should I say, in 2021, and managed to get a permanent role within the company not too long after that. And essentially for a year or maybe a bit more, I was working as basically like a backup to Ashley Preece, who was the previous writer for the Birmingham Mail. Ash did a fantastic job in the years that he covered the club, and I joined about a year or year and a half maybe into him covering Villa. Maybe it was longer, I can't quite remember now. But I was essentially backing him up for a while, and then when he decided to move on, that's when I got the call up essentially to take the job on the club correspondent role, which, as I said, is it's completely a dream role. I've said it many times. It's an absolute privilege. Like, Villa is my.
I mean, being a Villa fan as well.
Yeah. It's it's my thing. I mean, people who know me and my friends' family, I think it probably gets a bit too much for them when I'm talking about Villa all the time, and everything has to relate back to Villa. It must be pretty boring and frustrating to hear me talk about it 24/7. But that is all. It is my passion. It's my hobby. It's how do I quite put it?
You're very passionate.
Football is my hobby, but Aston Villa is that, if that makes sense. Like, I can watch other football matches, but I don't care about watching Mbappe or other players, other stars. I just don't have the kind of love for that. I have the love for Aston Villa. Of course, I'd love to see Mbappe play for Aston Villa one day, but no, that's where my passion is, and there really isn't anything else that I could be doing as well. Not as well. That's for the people to kind of judge, but there isn't anything that I could kind of put my hand to with so much passion and energy as to what I do with this. And I'm still obviously young in terms of my career, so I know I've got a lot of ways that I can improve. Everyone can in life, and for me, in terms of my job, so hopefully I can improve as well and kind of bring more better and content and all those different things. But I'm certainly passionate enough to continue with that.
And you really come a long way. So when you first started, it's an amazing journey.
Yeah, thanks, Chad. Yeah, again, like, whenever people talk about, people that I know kind of closely talk about my sort of journey, as it were, it's hard to kind of, I don't know, it's all gone so quickly because, as I said, when you're sort of so focused and narrow-minded to Aston Villa and everything that comes with that, it's hard to sort of remember other things. It's quite hard to explain, really. But I mean, firstly, my when I was at college and different things, university or whatever, my passion was media in terms of an academic thing. It was media and like English, that sort of stuff. I obviously enjoyed writing. I liked the media. Got kind of take it a step further. I got like good marks in my media and different things like that. So I really enjoyed that, and to kind of couple that with my love for football and obviously our club Aston Villa, it was like a dream thing. So ever since that I knew that this job existed from about the age of 15.
I mean it's a dream job.
Yeah. And it's just, since then, it's just been kind of full focus. Okay, this is a job that I want, and I'm going to do everything to get it. So working hard at uni and writing lots of articles for different websites, like a Villa Fan and whatnot, not being paid for it at all. I would never ask to be, because it was me learning and improving and making mistakes. And that might still be happening every now and again, but it's trying to improve yourself as a person. I think that's really important. But then also, in your career and how you can ultimately better yourself. And as I say, kind of make it as simple as better the content that we do, whether it's written content on Birmingham Mail or Claret and Blue Podcast stuff. That's really important. So it's gone really quickly from, 6 years ago to 7 years ago to now, when I first knew this is really what I wanted to do. But I wouldn't kind of change anything that I've done so far.
Also, the Birmingham Mail, I bet it's a nice environment to work in.
Yeah, so we have, in terms of the Villa beat, as it were, it was obviously Ash and then myself kind of, again, backing him up. That's changed obviously a little bit now. So it's me as the club writer. And we are, we've gone big on podcasts as a company, which is great because media is always, as you know, Chad, and this is why you've got a channel as well. It's always diversifying. You have to keep up with the trends, and whether that's in social media, multimedia. Well, multimedia is that encompasses everything, but social, audio, video, written, everything's changing all the time. So you really need to, give yourself to everything possible, and that's certainly something that we've done in the last years. Obviously, Dan Rollinson joined before me, but has made a really good brand in terms of Claret and Blue. That's something that I joined and have tried to boost as well. And then obviously Matt Kendrick too, the kind of godfather of our sort of Birmingham Mail world, I suppose, as it were. People will be well aware of what Matt's done.
You've done a great job, and great job. You put that passion into it.
Yeah, and I think, I'm glad you said that, because that's what we try to bring across. I think there's lots of ways to cover a club and to cover different things in all sorts of, whether it's politics, whether it's football, whether it's, in the media. And it's something which I, especially doing this role, for example, if I was covering Leicester City, for example, I'd like to think I could cover them well because I'm a journalist first and foremost, reporting and all of those skills that I've learned academically playing at university. That's that. But then also I know I wouldn't have as much passion to do it, like, genuinely. So I like to think that comes across, and not excessive to the point of I'll never say a bad word about Aston Villa or anything like that, because that would be to the detriment of my job and to my profession. Ultimately, I'm a professional more than anything else. But I think you have to show passion with it, and hopefully that's why people enjoy the written work that we do and the podcasts we do and everything else, because it's relatable, I suppose. So there's lots of different ways and reasons why you'd listen and watch and read different things, but hopefully one reason why you do it for us and our brand is because we are passionate, and with that also it's kind of like a 50-50 balance, or however you want to view it, of a professional kind of level-headed approach, which I think is what I give, but then secondly a passionate one of, we're happy to do podcasts at midnight and podcasts every other day or every day for a month or whatever it may be, working late hours, because ultimately this is what we want to be doing.
So was journalism something you always wanted to get into?
Yeah, I think so. As I said earlier, kind of that was what I was most interested by at school. It wasn't science. It wasn't other subjects, shall we say. I mean, obviously, as I think most people, when they're growing up, you want to be a footballer, you want to do these things. And obviously that was me until I realised that I wasn't going to get a career out of it and instead go to university. That's probably the best kind of plan for you long term. So that's what I did. Went to university after getting, like decent grades, nothing special at all. But the one thing that I really enjoyed and that I was passionate about was like media studies and how that world evolved every day. And it was the kind of the, I don't know, like the 24/7 nature of it. Like there's always news. It's exciting, and it's something that anyone, I think, can do in terms of reporting. I think you need to be,
and also as well,
doing
something that you enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. And that was anything that was the main thing for me when I was growing up. I really didn't want to work and do something that I didn't want to wake up to do. Basically, for me, it was maybe I could have done something else and earned more money or whatever it may be, and gone to do other things and other reasons and get job satisfaction in a different sphere. But for me, it was, I just want to wake up and be happy to do what I'm doing and be enthusiastic about it. I'd hate to, from an early age, I just knew I didn't want to. How do I put it? And I'm very lucky, by the way, in terms of what I do. Kind of worked hard for it, but I knew that if I worked hard for it, an opening could come up, and if I could take it, then fantastic. I know that I could have done all that work, and there wouldn't have been a job, and I'd be doing something that I didn't quite want to be doing. But you kind of crack on. I'm lucky enough to have this job that I'm doing, but it's one of those where I'm kind of put full focus into it again for about 7 years before now to where I am now. So it's I just knew I wanted to do something that I'd be happy to wake up to do. That was my sort of focus.
And before you write articles, what preparation is involved?
Yeah, a lot, especially depending on which articles they are. Obviously, there's a depth of whether it be, well, for example, there's, in our kind of world, it's, as I said earlier, it's very fast paced. It's always moving. Something's happening. For example, in 20 minutes, something could break about Aston Villa. And that isn't going to happen, by the way, I don't think. But something could happen. And it means, okay, you need to be doing it straight away. And that's something which you learn as you go on. So breaking news stories and picking things up, at the drop of a hat sort of thing, whether you're having dinner in a restaurant and then something, drop it, do your job. And that's how I approach my job, if that makes sense. It's about consistency for me. So that's how I like to play it, and that's one side of it. And then the other side is the kind of more considered pieces, and that's sort of what you mentioned there, Chad, in terms of how much preparation is involved. And that would, again, depend on different things. But if you have a story idea and it might take, 6 interviews to do with different people, that's going to take quite a long time. So definitely a lot of planning goes into it.
Preparation. It takes a lot of your time.
Yeah, a lot of the time it takes much longer than, in fact, almost all the time. If you're doing a longer piece or a more considered piece, it would take much more time than actually writing it in itself. And that's ultimately how you become a better journalist, I think, as well. It's talking, in fact, we know it's talking to people. It's, for me, it's, on your days off or when you have holiday days that you take off because you haven't taken them previously, it's talking to people and making contacts and all those things. That's what gives you stories later down in the line. So all the best report, for example, if we bring in like a David Ornstein, kind of the guru of transfers, as it were, he might, I don't know how many stories he writes outside of the transfer window, probably not many. But that he's working so hard every single day to get those stories for the summer window and for the January window. It's all really measured. Those stories don't land on his lap at all. He works really hard to get them, and that's the same for any reporter. If you're going to get an exclusive story or get information and work your contacts, that's something you've got to do all the time. That's just another part of the job, as well as writing and doing your video and audio and different things. So yeah.
It takes a lot of hard work and dedication.
Yeah, precisely that. Yeah. And this, again, it's something which, for me to say I work hard and I'm, doing late hours, it makes me laugh a little bit because it's like, well, yeah, I do, but there's much harder jobs than what I do. I know that for a fact. And this is no kind of like sort of sympathy play or anything. For me, working late hours doing the job I do, it's a hobby of mine. If I didn't want to do it, I wouldn't, and I'd do something else. But you have to love what you do when you're doing this specific job, I think. And again, something from a younger age, my mum and dad worked really hard in terms of raising our family and stuff like that, and they didn't love the job they were doing and things like that. And I sort of knew, okay, I don't want to do something that I don't like doing. And again, thankfully enough, everything sort of landed in my path that I've put myself in a position where I can get these opportunities, and luckily I've managed to take one.
Let's talk about the Claret and Blue Podcast. So when did you become part of contributing to the Claret and Blue Podcast?
I can't remember a specific sort of date, but it was I think it was around the summer of 2021, just as I'd started to come into the company really. I think Matt or Dan or whoever probably saw
After lockdown?
Yeah, after lockdown, and I think they'd see, kind of potential in these podcasts and different things, so they need different voices and different people. And obviously, before that, kind of the originals, it would have been like the Villa View of Dan Bardell and Matt Lynch.
Well, yeah, with Dan Robinson, well, he's part of the Villa View.
Yeah, so he's been around for a while now. Different people, have done video before me and will do it after me and do it now and probably do it much better than me as well. I don't confess to be a broadcaster or anything like that, but it's nice to kind of, I think when you support the club so much like yourself, Chad, you want to talk about it and you need a space to get things off your chest. I think that's a key thing. So that's why we do it. And I've been doing it for about I think it was about 2021 I started, so for a while now. I don't think I'm any more polished in terms of how I talk and how I communicate or anything like that in terms of getting my opinion across sometimes. But again, if the passion comes across, I think that's the sort of tick in the box for me.
It's like when I do my podcast, I use it as a therapy session.
Yeah. I think that's what I tend to do. That's what it has to be sometimes. And luckily for Villa, in the last, well, to be fair, since you started your podcast, really, I think we've been mostly getting good results. Probably not when Steven Gerrard was in charge. That would be, more therapy sessions. And this season, there's been a few, I think, as well. But no, you're right, Chad. I think that's what podcasts are for. I kind of noticed as well when Villa play really well and they beat Bayern Munich, everyone wants to hear about it and kind of get, consume all the information. But then equally, when you lose 4-1 to Crystal Palace, there's also sort of what's happened. We need to talk about it. This is a crisis. All of those different things and emotions.
It makes you feel better afterwards.
Yeah. That is literally it. Whether you're talking about it or listening to it, you just need to realise and understand that other people are also going through the same sort of Aston Villa crisis as much as you are, even though it's never a crisis, really. It was a few years ago when the club had to sell a car park to stay afloat and things like that. But right now we're in a, it's not the golden age, but we are in a really exciting time for the club. So, yeah.
On the Claret and Blue Podcast, all of you are a great team. You seem to bounce off each other really, really well.
Thank you. Yeah, again, I think it helps that we've been doing it for a few years now, and I think it's easy because we're Villa fans, and I think I genuinely feel like anyone can. You could probably, however many people do Villa podcasts and things like that, you could probably put them all in a room and divide them by 3, and they'd all get on and be happy and make a good podcast because it's the passion for me that's why a podcast.
Because what I like about it is everybody in the Villa community, they support each other.
Yeah, exactly, and similar to what you said earlier, Chad, about the sort of therapy session. Whether it's a therapy session or it's just a kind of, it helps people to get an escape, really. I mean, that's what football is. It is an escape, and to listen to podcasts and listen to other people do podcasts or do the podcast yourself. Again, it's you taking an hour out of your job or anything else you're doing that you want to, just escape from it, go to Villa, even if it's going to be talking about a defeat or a 0-0 draw or whatever. Sometimes you just need that that dose of Villa if they're not playing. So, I mean, the world would look a whole lot different, I think, if the media around football wasn't as big as it is now. If it was just the match and then after that there was no reaction to it, there was no anything, I think I'd go insane now. I don't know what I would do with myself. So I think it's something that maybe people may take for granted. Not our fans or probably fans of your show either. We have a really strong Villa community. As you say, everyone's supportive of each other. But if it went tomorrow, what would happen? Where would we?
Well, exactly.
Where would we get that therapy session from? Obviously, it would be like down the pub or whatever.
It would be the same.
It would, yeah. I don't think it would. I think it's nice to have such a, I say big audience. So there could be a few thousand people watching a video or whatever on a channel, wherever it may be, whether it's a Villa or an Arsenal channel, or Liverpool channel, or whatever.
It's thanks to things like technology.
Yeah.
Since lockdown, everyone connecting through like Zoom, like to StreamYard.
Yeah.
Things like that. And it wasn't for that, these channels wouldn't be around.
Yeah, I think that is. I remember saying this actually a few weeks ago to someone. I think it might have been Dan. I can't remember, but how COVID has changed how well people work in general, but also, as you say, like StreamYard and what we're doing now. It would be a case of, oh, can you come around to my house or can you come around to this office and we'll do
Yeah,
an interview? And that's much harder to plan and
it
organize and
is.
set up and everything else and edit all those different things with the cameras. So, yeah, you know, I do think football media and the way that fan media as well, is presented, I think it's much more accessible. There's lots more around. So
Mhm.
if you want to get your dose of it, you definitely can.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely taking a step forward, I think.
I like it as well because what's the things that I go through also to keep mentally motivated. It's something to focus for.
Yes.
Gives me a purpose.
Yeah, precisely. And you mentioned earlier, Chad, I think, or when we were offline, about how you've sort of
Yeah.
linked Villa and your condition as well. And that's something
Yeah.
that, would be much harder to do, I suppose. I mean, feel free
Yeah.
to talk about that.
Oh yeah, it's a very important part of my life.
Hmm.
I think without it, I think I don't know where I'd be lost without it.
Yeah, and I think that's how people feel. It's like in more sort of a general sense, like whether it's as simple as like going to work or coming back from work. We always
Oh yeah.
get comments, and I'm sure people might have said it to you as well. Like, I listen to you on the commute and stuff, and thanks for doing it. And I live in Australia or America and different things, and it
Oh yeah.
scrambles my head because I'm like, how did you find it? Like, how did you, So yeah, it's massive. It's bigger than what you'd think, and it's I always think if you put that amount of people in a room that comment, and again, not just on our stuff, but like your stuff, our stuff, other channels, if you put them all together, that's it's a lot of people. So you wouldn't want to be standing in that room talking to that many people or getting all the
No.
opinions of those thousands and millions or whatever, how much it is. So yeah, these platforms have really helped us with that.
Let's talk about some of the interviews you've done. So, what's your most favourite interview you've done?
Yeah, we've done one in terms of on the podcast, which was Matty Cash at the start of last
I've seen
season.
it. Yeah, great
Yeah,
interview.
thank you. Yeah, that's not something that we've been managed to do until now. Another one on the podcast or anything. That's something that I'd obviously love to do again and do more of for sure. So I'd say that's probably my favorite in terms of it being like broadcasted as well. Like spoken to Daniel Marlon. Was that a few weeks? January. Yeah, back in January,
Oh
which was
well,
good as well.
amazing.
But because it's not as a podcast, I think it's like, for us anyway, we try and touch all bases with podcasts, with written, of course. I mean, my job obviously fundamentally is written. So to have it down as words is, brilliant. I'll have another interview coming up soon, hopefully in written form. But to have it on podcast as well, like I really liked that one because not only, Cash gave good answers and was, very insightful as ever, but to have it accessible to fans that they can watch it if they want, they can read it, or they can do anything that they want and share clips on social media and all that stuff. That it kind of
It
ticked
is
all the boxes.
difficult to get podcasts with actual players, so it's great to put off that one.
Yeah, and that was thanks to the club. Really, they spotted that was something that they were happy for us to do that. So again, hopefully later down the line, that's something maybe we could do again with different players and whatnot. Because again, like as you said there, I'm sure the fans really appreciated the club kind of giving us that platform to do so, and they've got a podcast obviously themselves now. I think it's the Villa Podcast.
It is.
So yeah, again, that shows how important podcasts are these days, and that everyone wants to consume different things. So I'd say Cash was probably my favorite interview. A bit different, but I would also say being given access to Damian, Vidigani, and Monchi as well earlier in this season, that was really good.
I met Monchi.
All right, yeah. When was that?
I met him in the Villa store just before New Year's Eve.
Okay, so that would have been just before the window opened.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's bought
a
us
busy
some training. He stopped our photo in there. That was good.
Yeah,
he's a legend, obviously, as well.
Yeah, as I said, we had access to him at the well, just after the window ended, actually, just to talk about different things. Because obviously, it was a really busy summer window and difficult for lots of reasons. And the information that they gave was really important. And I think that really did help paint the picture of what had happened, what will happen, and all those different things, rather than it being sort of left up in the air of, well, why did we sell Louise? Why did we buy these players and not these? So they were really open and honest. And I think that's probably my favorite sort of written form of content in terms of like an interview as such. Cash would be my favorite overall because of the link to social media and video, audio, written, all of those multimedia elements were all ticked there.
So I'll ask you the next question there. So what's it like being in a press conference? And what is it like abroad covering Aston Villa as well?
Yeah. Firstly, being abroad with Villa is something, I mean, a lot of reporters won't get the opportunity to do it in general, and that's never something that you kind of go into the job and think, oh, I'd like to travel Europe, so I want to do this job. It's never that, because let me tell you, a few years ago, that was never on my radar at all. It wasn't on my radar a few months before taking this job. So, again, it's an absolute privilege to do this role if Villa were in League Two or League One, because wherever they are, however bad they are, we will always follow them, and it will never be
home and away. Yeah,
exactly. It's if that's your club, that's your club. Nothing will change that. But obviously, I'm under kind of no illusion that it's a huge bonus to be watching us in the Champions League and away from home in Europe. It's something that I never
it's an incredible experience.
It is, yeah, and to be as close as obviously I can get. Talking with Unai and different things with players, and those experiences. I've got my lanyard for the Champions League game here. That's a nice bonus, the lanyard, which is really nice, really nice lanyard. And all those different things, like even small things like the programs behind me. Like I've got all the programs from this season, which for some people might you kind of throw them away, put them in the attic, but for me, it's like I just all of it I want. So
it's nostalgia.
Exactly. And I know that in 5 years, this may not be forever in terms of Villa being in Europe, or, I mean, hopefully it is, and with the owners and Emery and everything else, but maybe in 20 years, should we say, maybe it isn't. And we're looking back and thinking, remember when we were in the Champions League and we won it and John McGinn lifted it in Munich and all those things. You want to look back and again, having those experiences, obviously kind of, I don't know how to put the worst, if I kind of flip it, the worst thing about it is that I don't go to games anymore as a fan, and I can't go with my brother and my dad, and I can't celebrate goals with them like I did for like 21 years of my life or whatever. So those things I really miss, but it certainly balances out a little bit more when you get access to these managers and, as you said, press conferences there. And press conferences are always fun to be a part of, obviously. Again, talking to and I having access to ask questions and different things.
How many questions? How many questions you get?
It can depend. So on each press conference, it's kind of divvied up into like a broadcast section and a written section. And obviously now Villa are much more sort of relevant in the national media, I suppose, because they're in the Champions League, because they're going for those big positions in the Premier League and trophies. It's probably much more crowded press room. So, you can't ask, like 10 questions yourself and those things. They try to, how do I put it? Like, because it's broadcast and then it's written, some of the things you would want to ask have already been answered and those sorts of things. So, and because press conferences, sometimes there can be like 2 a week and then another 2 for post-match. It's quite a lot to get through. So sometimes only 1 or 2 questions, that can be enough to get what you need. And as I say, if there's about 10 journalists in the room, you quickly get through a lot of the answers that you came for, really.
Do you get all the sports channels? Also, then you got like BBC WN. You got Daz, obviously, in the press conference.
Yeah.
You're in there as well. People involved.
Yeah. It's all of the kind of all the famous names. Your Daz Isles and other reporters that you've been. You've got your written guys and girls from nationals and from local, but then as you say, broadcast as well. So the people that you'll see on like Soccer Saturday and stuff, they'll be there. And in the press room as well, like you'll see some famous faces, some old Villa legends as well if it's home games. So yeah, that's something that kind of struck me at first, and it was like, oh wow, like I'm in the company of these people, and that's still the case. So I have absolute massive respect for some of the people that not necessarily related to Villa. Like you might see, I don't know, some old Premier League players in there that now do commentary, and at first you're like, wow, like these players I'd see on Premier League years and stuff, but now they're kind of like your colleagues, and you just get used to it. So, yeah.
The pre-season tours. That's a unique experience. You go to the summer series. That was not last season. The season before, was it?
Yeah, the season before last. That was my first sort of experience of covering Villa, because I'd taken the job just about a month before that or two. That was, I think that's probably the best thing I've ever done. Genuinely, it was just an incredible experience. I mean, firstly to go to America, I'd never been before, and that was obviously cool. But then
they've got a big fan base.
Yeah, there is, definitely, and it's something that I think will be growing massively now as well, considering the success that we're having. So I expect that in another 5 years that will be doubling and all sorts. So yeah, but the summer series was fantastic. You had access to players and managers and all sorts, and again, like I went there as a professional though, and it was great to be in the sun, great to be in America, all those things. But in terms of the job, it was brilliant for me to talk to Unai like before in pre-season. So you're talking about different things, and it was really good, and something that, again, I don't think I'll enjoy myself as much as I did there. Genuinely, it was a really good time. Like there was a press conference in where was it? We were in Orlando. And it wasn't Disney World. What's the big Universal Resorts?
Yeah, Universal Studios.
Yeah. And I'll never forget it, because I was talking to Unai Emery, and I did an interview with Tara and Mings over there, which was quite surreal in itself. Like I don't know why it was there, but I had like a free pass to go on the rides and stuff.
Yeah.
But I said no. I wasn't doing it. I'd rather tap out my interview and get that sorted. And that's kind of how sad I can be sometimes with Villa, and how I sort of treat my job. So that if there's anything that kind of encapsulates how much I enjoy what I do, it's taking time to do tapping out quotes and doing pieces over there rather than going on the rides. That's the sort of best example I could give.
And as I say, we travel near and far.
Exactly. Yes. It definitely was far going into America, that's for sure. Different flights to different areas of the where was it? East Coast? Yeah, East Coast. Hopefully that's something I'd be able to do again, because as I say, that was a really enjoyable experience.
And how did you start supporting Aston Villa?
I mean, I don't have like a specific. I mean, I was without being like cringe about it or cliche, I was essentially born a Villa fan. I don't think there's any other way that it would. My family are Villa fans. My dad.
That's a good reason.
My mum. Yeah, my granddad used to play for Villa as well back in the 50s. So yeah, it's all kind of like a long line. It's a big succession. And again,
what was his name?
His name was Ron Jeffries. He didn't play many games, but he was in the first team for a few years. He actually quit that because he earned more money opening a shop. So it shows how much football has changed. I think if he grew up in this era, he'd probably be, I don't know, likened to a youth player, a youth striker coming through and scoring lots of goals in Premier League 2 or whatever. That was what he was back then. Times changed massively, and no, my family Villa fans. My first game was when I was 6. Just turned 6 and went to.
I've been a Villa fan for nearly 25 years. 24 years with that.
Yeah. It's just one of those. I don't have like a specific sort of. I remember I covered. It was just I was born into it, and it's the only thing that I've known growing up. I'm a Villa fan, and I don't know when it happened or how, but I do know how. It's again like a family thing, but I'm blessed. We're blessed to be Villa fans, aren't we, Chad?
Yeah, definitely. And Villa's in the blood. And it chooses you.
Precisely. I mean, there's a lot of fans as well, as you say, that maybe their family weren't Villa fans, but they've stumbled across it somehow, and it's always for a good reason as well. It's never for a reason of I don't know, that they won this, or maybe it is sometimes. They win this title back when or whatever. But it's hardly like you're a glory hunter or anything. Like Prince William, obviously, kind of picked Villa, but he wanted that kind of emotional ride, and I think that I say that's why we're blessed, because I don't think there's not many clubs like Villa. I mean, there's a few in terms of, if you look down like an Everton or whatever, kind of have punched and obviously won titles back in the day and have fallen on hard times. It's similar to Villa in a way, but you don't get that sort of emotional connection or feeling with some other teams. And again, that is different. Some fans of a Newport County or whatever, their relationship to their club is just as strong to what it is to Villa, but for lots of different reasons. So I respect any fan of who they support, but I wouldn't change. We wouldn't change supporting Villa for anything or anything.
I think it's like everything.
Yeah,
big part of our life.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Brentford. We've got Brentford at the weekend. What do you expect from that game?
I think it's going to be a difficult game, and I say that because obviously there's the statistic that we don't win, we lose many games after Champions League matches, don't we? So, if I'm being totally honest, I'm not expecting us to win. We definitely can win. I did have a stat actually that I pulled up somewhere. Brentford are winless in the last 5 against Villa, and having won 7 of their first 8 Premier League home games this season, Brentford are now winless in their last 6. So there's definitely an opportunity for us to go there and do something. However, it almost feels like, because both teams, for different reasons, have been in and out of form, I feel like it's more likely that Brentford pick up form against us rather than us pick up form against Brentford. And that's me just being honest. And I hope that's not the case. I hope, obviously, we win. It'd be a massive win if we can get it. I mean, if you're going to have quality and players in form like Asensio and whatnot, I think, you got a chance. And we do have players coming back from injury.
You need to start then. I think they need to start at least Asensio, I think.
Yeah, and I think
Rashford.
He's going to do a press conference, Emery, on Friday, and we'll hopefully can give us some sort of steer on why he didn't start. I think there was I didn't see this myself, but I think there was something or another saying that essentially wasn't completely fit for the game against Bruges, and that's why he didn't start. But again, we'll see. It's more that, as we all know, it's the defence. So that's we don't score too many goals, but I think now that we've got these top attacking players, I think we will start to. But it's the defence, and we have now got players coming back from injury.
What's the worry? Is there a goal difference?
Yeah,
we need to sort that goal difference out.
I know. It's like all the teams around us. All the teams around us have it much better, so it is going to be worth a point at the end of the season for us, which is a shame. But ultimately, if we can get the wins we need to finish above those sides, it won't matter in the end. But you're right; it's definitely something that may hold us back.
The thing is, say at the end of the season, if we miss out a Champions League place because of goal difference, we'll be gutted.
Yeah, and it's going to be one of those where we're just going to have to say, well, that's our fault, isn't it? That's for conceding so many goals. And we've obviously had injuries and different reasons why we've conceded so many goals, but ultimately it's on us. But even if we did miss out on the Champions League by a point, it will be gutted. But Europa League would be, I'd definitely take it at this stage, I think.
I'll take Europa League.
Yeah.
Or maybe Champions League quarterfinals and win the FA Cup.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, if you offered me right now, I mean, as we said at the top, an FA Cup win, that would be everything you need. It's silver, it's the Europa League, which I think is acceptable.
That would be a great season. That would be.
Yeah. Well, we would. I mean, if you were looking in a sort of a long list of Aston Villa seasons, if this is the year that we break our silverware drought, well, it's automatically, it has to be the best season. And again, you can talk about revenue the Champions League brings, but silverware is silverware. And as we said, this is the reason why Villa are such a big club, and it's the reason why we've had success previously, because we used to win lots of trophies. That's dried up in the last 20 years. We haven't won much at all. So yeah, now it's time to stop that drought.
And going back to the Brentford game, I think Thomas Frank is a quality coach. And he's done a wonderful job, at Brentford.
Yeah.
Really, when you think of like Thomas Frank, it's like football manager kind of stuff, really.
Yeah, I'd go as far as saying he's. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I was going to kind of compare him to other managers in the league then, but I think it's difficult because you just have to say he's done a fantastic job at Brentford. I don't think there's many managers that could have done a better job because he knows it back to front. Obviously, he's more than a manager there. It seems he's just the most important person, hands down. They can sell Tony, they can sell even like Mbuemo this summer or whatever it may be, but you just know that they'll be fine because of the manager that they have. So that's probably the biggest compliment I could give him, that all the players may leave down, in different years, the best players, but there's almost no drop off. Even in some cases, I think they've improved. So yeah, full praise to him.
Well, he always gets the best out of the team. And even if you go all the way through, even to the academy, he's really got the best out of all the players.
Yeah.
He knows what to do at a Premier League side.
Yeah, he's just a fantastic coach, and it's good to see because he's come from a sort of modest background, hasn't he? I think he's working in the Dean Smith for a while, and is now, he should be kind of linked to all the top jobs in the Premier League. Whether they'll actually go for him or not, I don't know, but you almost don't want him to. You want him just to continue with Brentford and for him to do his thing and to work his magic there kind of forevermore, because it's a good story and something that we don't see a lot of. I think that again is a big compliment to him because not many managers have taken the team to the Premier League and stayed there and improved them year after year after year. So yeah, full praise to him for sure.
We need to be careful of the Mbuemo, the likes of Wissa.
Yeah.
They got a decent forward line that can hurt you.
Yeah, that's why I'm not particularly confident this weekend, because we have a defence that's only kept, I think it's only 3 league clean sheets this season, and obviously Brentford have got
Martinez,
lots
I
of
bet
goals.
he's not happy either.
Yeah, and I think he understands, again, to a point of injuries and different things, but ultimately, it's for a team that's supposed to be challenging Champions League football to only keep 3 clean sheets and concede so many goals. It doesn't add up, does it? So we are going to have to do much better in that respect in the final weeks or months of the season for sure. And yeah, that would start at Brentford, hopefully.
We're coming towards the end of the podcast. So what is your score prediction?
I'd love to say a Villa win, but yeah, go on then. I'll say 3-2 Villa. I'll back us to nick it 3-2.
You know what? I'll go with the same. 3-2 as well, I think.
Yeah. I think it's a good prediction to make because we're probably going to concede twice, and we've also got goals in us. So, yeah. I mean, listen, it could be a game where Villa, we could draw 1-1, or maybe we nick it 2-1. But there's definitely goals in it. So I think we're probably about right to say that there'll probably be about 5. Maybe there's going to be more. I do think it'll be an exciting game, though. I don't think it's what Emery would want. I think he's going to want it to be, if anything, a goal either side. I mean, obviously a Villa win, but he won't want to. If you told him before the game there's 5 goals in this, I don't think he'll be happy. I think if you told him there's going to be 2, I think he'd take that.
But I think at the end of the game, at Marcus Rashford, I think he'll get the winner. I'd love him to score.
Yeah, that's almost like the one thing missing at the moment, isn't it? He's done really well, I think. He's impressed, he's excited. He didn't do too much against Bruges, but it's that's okay. He hasn't played too much football. It's the goal that's missing a little bit. But again, if he was to have scored by now, I think everyone would be saying, "Oh, you have to pay the 40 million and you have to pay him big wages." So it's kind of against small margins in terms of how you feel.
He's made the difference.
Yeah, and the 2 goals against Cardiff that we scored, goals against Chelsea that we scored, he's played a key role in our recent wins. So yeah, hopefully just for his confidence as well, getting that goal. I think if he scores 1, he could score 4 in 4 sort of thing, just like Asensio. So yeah. So well, yeah, I'm really enjoying this interview.
John, it's been great interviewing you.
Thank you very much, Chad. It's again, as we said, it's this is like a big Villa community, and this I couldn't be happier to jump on a podcast for an hour and just chat to you. Obviously, you've done some great interviews and have a natter about Villa. It's been nothing but a pleasure, mate. Really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you everyone for watching. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please remember to subscribe. Make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to give it a share. And if you're listening via audio, make sure to give us a good review on audio platforms, including Spotify and Apple. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you so much, John, for your time.
Thank you very much, Chad.
I'm going to wrap up this episode with Villa Forever and Up the Villa.
Up the Villa.